Welcome to Illustration for Beginners, an Adobe Illustrator course where we'll learn the basics of the software whilst learning how to create eye-catching vector images. Hi, I'm Jonathan Lamb, a digital artist with Tuts Plus, and in this course we'll take you through step by step on how to transform your sketches into clean vector illustrations. We'll learn how to do this all from scratch, but if you're looking for something that's ready-made, go ahead and check out Envato Elements, where you can get unlimited downloads of video templates, stock videos, audio tracks, effects, and more. There's millions of creative assets all ready to use and with simple commercial licensing. Plus, no lock-in contract means that you can cancel at any time. Subscribe now with the link in the description. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Envato Tuts Plus channel for even more free tutorials and courses. Illustrator is famous for creating eye-catching vector illustrations. Now, if you're wondering what a vector illustration is, it's basically an image that is made up of shapes instead of pixels. One of the cool things about vector images is that they can be scaled up or down without losing any quality. So, if you have a small vector image of a circle, for example, you can make it bigger without it becoming blurry or pixelated. Because of this, vector images are commonly used in things such as logos, icons, and illustrations, because they can be resized and edited easily without losing any quality. They are also smaller in file size compared to other types of images, making them even more convenient for storage and sharing. So now that we know what a vector image is, let's go ahead and get started in Illustrator. Create a new document. It doesn't really matter what size, as we can always resize the artboard at any time using the Artboard tool here. First, let's go ahead and import our original sketch by going to File, and then selecting Place. Navigate to where the file is that you want to import, and then let's go ahead and place it. And then click anywhere on the artboard here to place it, like so. From here, you can then move it or resize it into position. So let's go ahead and resize our sketch. And then let's go ahead and use the Artboard tool here to resize the artboard to match the size of our sketch, like so. Next, let's go to the transparency panel here, and we're going to lower the opacity to about 15% or whatever you prefer. Then we're going to go to the layers panel, and we're going to double click on this layer to rename this sketch, and then lock it by clicking on the empty space here to create a lock icon. Now this will make it so that we can no longer select this layer or move it accidentally when we're working on our new layer, which we'll create here. Let's go ahead and rename this illustration, and then click OK for that. So now when we're working on this new layer, make sure that it's selected. We won't accidentally move our locked sketch layer, which is underneath. Now, let's go ahead and learn how to create nice, crisp line work from our illustration. I'll show you how to do this with multiple tools, starting with the pen tool. Now, once selected, we'll want to make sure that the colors here are set to none, and that our stroke is set to black, like so. And then from here, all we have to do is, I'm just going to zoom in to our canvas here so you can see clearly what we're doing, is just click anywhere on the canvas to create your first anchor point, then move and click again to create another anchor point, which will create a straight line connecting the 2 points. Now, if we wanted to create a curve following our sketch here, all we have to do is click and drag with your mouse to create these curve handles. And the control handles determine the direction and curvature of the path. So you can see here, we can now create some curved lines. And if we go ahead and use the direct selection tool here, we can use these handles and manipulate our anchor points and our curves to better suit what we want to achieve. You can then continue adding anchor points to the stroke and adjusting their control handles to create more complex shapes and curves. Now, one quick tip here when creating corners like the one we see here on the illustration, all we have to do is click on the anchor point again to break the handle, and then we can create a nice sharp corner like so. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the pencil tool, which we can find on the toolbar here, clicking and holding on the shaper tool and then selecting it, or by pressing N on your keyboard. And we'll also take a look at the Paintbrush tool, which is over here, or B on the keyboard. Now the main difference between the two is that you can paint directly with a special brush using the Paintbrush tool. So let's go ahead and select a special brush here. And you can see as I click and drag with the cursor, you can see that the brush is already being added as we draw. Whereas with the pencil tool, even with the special brush selected, as I'm drawing, you can see it's just a line until I let go of the cursor, and then I'll need to go ahead and add that brush to the stroke like so. Now they both work in a very similar way as I explained, whereas you just go ahead and click and drag with the mouse to create a path. Now as you drag the mouse or the stylus, the pencil tool will trace the movement and create a path, which is especially useful when you want to achieve a more loose and hand-drawn style. Now keep in mind that the paths that you create may not be as precise as the ones that we made with the pen tool. However, it can still be an excellent tool to use for line art if you prefer working in this way. Using it to trace over our sketch like so, and we'll want to increase the size of the stroke to match that of the one that we did for our hair. Now you can adjust the smoothness of your pencil or paintbrush lines by going to the properties panel here, making sure that only the tool is selected and not the stroke, as this will change the properties panel. So let's go ahead and unselect our stroke and select our pencil or paintbrush tool here. And then we can go to tool options. And you can see here we've got some options here to play with. Now you can modify the fidelity and smoothness settings up here with a higher fidelity setting to create more accurate paths following your stylus or your mouse, or a more smooth setting here to smooth out your lines and give it a little bit less inconsistencies. Now, one cool thing about the pencil tool in particular is that you can easily close your path by joining the beginning point to your end point. So let's go ahead and draw out our face. And once you meet the end point here, you can see that our cursor now has a small circle underneath it, indicating that we can close out our point like so. Now, to adjust the look of your lines, we can just go ahead and select them and then increase the stroke size, which is at the top here. So this is the stroke weight. We can increase it or decrease it like so. And you can also change the shape of your stroke width by going to the variable width profiles here and then changing them like that. And you can see that it's given it a more natural look. And we can do the same with this line here and choosing a different style like that. And finally, the last tool I want to mention when editing your lines is the width tool, which you can find on the toolbar over here, or Shift W on the keyboard. This allows you to manually adjust the thickness of your strokes along a path. So select it from the toolbar, and then we're just going to hover over one of our lines here, and then you're just going to click to create an anchor point and then drag with your mouse to make the line thicker or to make it thinner. And it will change based upon the movement of your cursor. From there, all we have to do is trace over the rest of our sketch using these tools and a combination of the pen tool, pencil tool, or paintbrush tool to complete the rest of the line art. Now let's take a look at the Blob brush tool. You can find it by going over to the side panel here, clicking and holding on the paintbrush tool, and then selecting it or pressing Shift B on the keyboard. Now this is a unique tool that combines the characteristics of the paintbrush and shape build tools, allowing you to create interesting and complex filled shapes instead of strokes. For example, if we take the paintbrush tool here and we try and fill up the shapes for this plant, like so, and then we go ahead and select it, you can see that it's still made up of strokes like this. Instead, if we go ahead and use the Blob brush tool to do the same thing, so let's go ahead and roughly fill out the shape of this plant and then paint in the insides like so. And now if we go ahead and select this one, you can see that it is instead a filled shape, not made out of lines, which is useful for creating irregular shapes like this plant here. So let's go ahead and use it to fill up the shape of these plants. And because these are shapes, we can convert them into strokes quickly and easily. The next tool that we're going to have a look at is the Live Paint Bucket tool, which works as you would expect it to if you're familiar with these sort of programs. So let's go ahead and go over to the Shape Builder tool, click and hold it, and then select the Live Paint Bucket, or K on the keyboard. Now, to use it, we'll need to go ahead and change these lines. You'll see that if we go and hover over these shapes here, it's got a cross over it, indicating that we can't use the Paint Bucket tool just yet. So let's go ahead and use the Selection tool. Select the shape that we want to use. Now we have to make sure that it is a closed shape, meaning that there are no openings within the stroke. And then what we need to do is we need to go to Object, and then we want to select Live Paint, which is down here, and then select Make, or Alt-Control-X. Select OK. And this will allow us to use the Live Paint Bucket tool within the shape that we have created. So let's select it again. And then we want to select a color that we want to use. And now when we hover over our shape, you can see that we can now use the Live Paint Bucket. So just click to fill in the shape. Now, if you look carefully above the cursor, you'll notice that there are some small color boxes above it. Now, the middle color is the one that you're using currently. And then if you press left or right on the keyboard, you can quickly cycle through the other colors in the swatches panel, allowing you to change colors easily. Now, all that's left is to repeat the steps for the rest of the illustration to color it in. Now let's go ahead and create the books and the bookshelf using the shapes and the Pathfinder tool. Go to the ellipse tool here. We're going to click and hold the mouse button to bring up this menu and select the rectangle tool or press M on the keyboard. And then all you have to do is click and drag with your mouse to create your shape. Now the same thing as before, we can go ahead and increase or decrease the width of our strokes. So let's go ahead and draw out the rest of these books here, like so. And then we can just go ahead and copy this shape and paste it. Control C to copy and Control V to paste. I'm just going to rotate this shape by holding and dragging one of the corners of this shape here and then rotating it like that. And then doing the same, Control C to copy, Control V to paste with this shape here. And then just resizing it to fit our composition. Awesome. And then once you're happy with the way that your books look, and once all the shapes are ready, we can go ahead and select all of these with the selection tool. And if we zoom in here, you'll notice that there is this sort of live corner widget here, which we can click and drag to go ahead and round off our corners. So if you want, you can go ahead and round off the corners for each of these books here. So we can select them all here, or select them individually, and just round off each of the corners just to make the books look a little bit more interesting, like so. And then because these are already closed off shapes, we can go ahead and select them, go over to our swatches panel here, and then just choose a fill color for each of these. Like that. Excellent. Now, in order to create our shelf, what we can do here is again use the shapes tool. We're going to just remove the color, the fill color for now. Just going to draw this out, and we just want to round off one corner of this shape. So using the direct selection tool here, we're going to select just one corner here and then just round that off like so. And then we can go ahead and create this bit of the shelf. And if we want to combine these shapes together, we can go ahead and select both of these, go over to the Pathfinder panel here, and we can select Unite. And you can see straight away it has united or combined both of those shapes into one shape that we can use. As for the other modes, we'll use these two shapes to illustrate what they do. So go ahead and select both of those shapes. Again, Unite, as we saw, combines the two shapes together. And if we choose minus front, you'll see that it cuts away the first shape. If we go ahead and select intersect, only the intersection of the two shapes will remain. Whereas if we choose exclude, it will cut away the shape which is intersecting both of those shapes or overlapping both of those shapes like so. Next, we'll choose divide, which will go ahead and divide all of the shapes like so. The next one we choose will be trim, which will trim parts of the shape that extend beyond the overlapping areas. So it's similar as what we did before with the previous operation, which was divide. And then the next one we have here is merge, which will merge the shapes whilst keeping all the individual shapes outlines. As you can see, the Pathfinder tool is an extremely useful and powerful tool. So experiment with the different modes to get a feel for it and discover what is useful for you when creating your own illustrations. Now, once your illustration is finished, we can easily create some color variations using Recolor Artwork. So here's how it works. Go ahead and select all the elements of your image like so. Then go to Edit, Edit Colors, and select Recolor Artwork. This will bring up this Recolor Artwork dialog box here, displaying the selected artwork and all of the existing colors. Now, in the Recolor Artwork dialog box, we can go ahead and select all these different sort of options to control and manipulate the colors. So here we can experiment with the predefined options in this color library. So you can see here we've got none selected, but if we go and select something like metal, you can see straight away it has created a new color scheme for our illustrations. Let's go ahead and choose another one like kid stuff. So it has all these predefined color schemes for you to use. Or we can go ahead and choose none to bring it back to what it was originally. Next, we also have this colored or this color box here. So right now it's set to auto, but we can go ahead and limit the amount of colors used by selecting these numbers here. So you can limit it all the way down to just one color. So we can have a monochromatic image like this, or we can choose all of our colors here like that. Next, we can use the color theme picker here, which will go ahead and extract the color palettes from another image. So here we've got an image of these flowers on an orange background. So if we go ahead and select the color theme picker and then click on that, you'll see that it's extracted the colors from this image and applied it to our image like so. Or we can go ahead and use the color wheel. Now this is the most fun way to use the recolor mode, as we can go ahead and use the color wheel to just turn it around to create new and fun variations of our illustration. Now each of these nodes represent a color on our illustration, so we can just go ahead and select that and move it up and down the wheel to increase or decrease the saturation of said color, and then just turn it around like that to create new variations. And then once you're happy with the way that your illustration looks, next we're going to have to save it. So to save the illustration, we want to go to File, select Save As, and then choose your vector file type of choice, such as EPS for printing. Or if you want to save it for the web, we can go to File, and then choose Export, and then select Save for Web. And then from here, we want to go ahead and select either a GIF, JPEG, or PNG file which is suitable to upload online. So there you have it, how to create a vector illustration from a sketch using Adobe Illustrator. If you liked this video and would like to see more, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified of any new and inspiring videos. Stay tuned for some future Illustrator videos, and don't forget to check out the rest of the Envato Tuts Plus channel to learn After Effects, Photoshop, and much more.